Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK.
And I'm Courtney.
And Courtney, how are you?
I've just realized my microphone is not quite right, and I'm gonna try and move it without it
I hate on
burning
you.
alive. Okay, I am good. I have been crazy today. And I feel a little bit like a heathen. I have a confession. I so I hate AI. We all know that. It
Yeah.
is my livelihood also, but we hate
No,
it.
do you do,
Um,
do you mean a heathen or a Luddite?
Here's the thing. I'm not that good of a Christian to know.
Oh, a Christian.
Um,
Oh, no, no, no. Sorry. Though you immediately started talking about technology, and so then I was
yeah.
like, are you? Because a Luddite is a person who is anti-technology. A heathen is a
Oh,
person who's
no, no, no. Just
anti-religion. And so, but you were like, I'm a
all of the
heathen, and then
above.
immediately started talking about technology, and I was like,
All
are
of the above.
oh, okay,
I'm just a bad person, whatever
got
that comes out to be.
it.
Um, so I understand that I train AI for a living, and I also understand that AI is the future, et cetera, et cetera. But I just haven't had it in me to like
Yeah.
really deep dive into AI
Mhm.
because I do also work in creative fields.
Yeah.
Um, but today as we know, I work with a couple of artists and we had a pitch today. And for those of you who don't know how music supervision works, you have 24 hours to turn around a song. That is
Yeah.
it. If you don't have a song to pitch within 24 hours, you don't have a song to pitch. And so one of my artists has a good song for this pitch that was posted today, but she has a co-writer and we hadn't gotten around to doing the co-writer agreement yet. Um, and so I was like, I have to get this to you in less than 10 minutes because I don't have more than that today. I don't have 10 minutes today, but I definitely don't have more than that.
Yeah.
And so I just like word vomited into ChatGPT and I was like, I need you to format this into an agreement format.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna go do it. And I feel so bad doing
Um,
like auto agreements. Like it's my job. Also, as a lawyer, like you're supposed to do these things yourself. But I was just like,
but
I need this.
here's the thing though. Like, if you become so reliant on AI that you can't do things on your own, like that's a problem. If you
Sure.
if you just like give AI something to do and then you don't proofread it, you don't like pay attention to what it is, that's one thing. I use AI for teaching all the time. I don't create my own rubrics anymore. Why would I
That
waste
makes
my
so much
time?
sense. I really should be more reliant on AI than I
Like,
am.
or like, okay, so we had a vocab quiz for the kids.
Mhm.
10 vote, or they had 17 vocabulary words. They had to use 10 in a sentence. They like create their own sentences, or they could write the definitions, whatever. It was up to them, but they had to write 10 sentences. I have two kids who are not capable of writing 10 sentences. So
Mhm.
I went to ChatGPT and I said, using the words in this PowerPoint, make a 10 question fill in the blank quiz. Because could I do it? Of course. Do I need to waste 25 minutes of formatting a Word document when
Sure.
the internet can do it for me and give me more time to like put thought into the rest of the lesson? 100%.
That is true. And I have drafted the same exact agreement before. It's just at my old job, so I don't have access to it anymore. Um, and I did also reformat once it gave it to me because I didn't like what it did. But
Well,
it made
and
it, I gave it 10 words and it gave me a page of words, which was really what I needed
right, and
because
here's the
I
thing.
didn't have time.
Things that require critical thinking and creativity should not
Mhm.
be AI.
Right,
You
right.
should not like if you were like, "Hey, my artist needed to write a song in 24 hours and I
Sure.
used ChatGPT," that's a problem. If I'm
Hmm.
like, I need to understand if you comprehend something, like my students, if they use AI to write the essay, they didn't comprehend it. If they
Right.
need, if my kids are like, here are all my, I mean, I really don't want them to because but if they were like, this is the essay, this is my opinion on it, how do I make it a paper? I'd be fucking impressed that they were able to do it. The problem is when they go, what does the author mean when they say this? And then
Right.
ChatGPT gives them an answer that is clearly not their own thinking. But like, if they were like, I don't know how to format a paragraph, what do I do? Use AI. Great.
And also you have like ESL students and like younger students. It's not like you have
Well,
college age who should be doing it
no,
themselves.
no, absolutely
Like,
no, for sure. But I mean, even
yeah.
like I mean, think about it. Things like Duolingo, Khan Academy. You think people
Mhm.
are making those? No, that's AI.
Mm-mm.
100%. We can use AI to help us with information formatting, like sticks and bones of things. The problem is when people use AI for art and
Right.
creativity and critical thinking and opinions that it gets tricky.
Mhm.
Think about it. That would be like someone saying, "Oh, you have access to a computer, but you still have to handwrite every document because we don't want someone else to do that skill for
I
you."
guess that's true. I guess that's
It's the
true.
same evolution of technology. The problem is that people, it like how many times did we copy and paste shit online because we could? Like
That's true.
it's the same thing, just scarier because
Right. Well,
we don't
and I
understand.
think that like I spend every day of my life saying, you are not a lawyer. You cannot give legal advice to AI. That like I'm training it not to do that. And then I'm like, here is all of the lawyer advice I know. Please put this like
Yeah,
here's the information.
but you didn't ask ChatGPT to give you advice or to
Yeah.
create a defense for you. You just said, I need to write a contract that needs to include
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z. Give me the legalese of it.
Yeah.
That's a totally different.
There's not even legal use in this agreement. It's just like
But no,
super
but you know what I
straightforward.
mean? You were just
But
like,
yeah.
I need to write a contract. It needs to be for this, it needs to cover this, it needs to have
Mhm.
X, Y, and Z in it. I don't have time to come up with the words. Do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. So maybe I'm a Luddite. But
It's like, yes, so in this case, I think you are a Luddite, not a heathen.
yeah, maybe I'll get used to it. I really need it too because I also need to send like 8 gajillion emails, and it'd be easier if someone else did that who wasn't me, and it can do that.
Right. Like I said, things that have humanity attached, not the place for AI.
Sure,
Like that's why
but
like
pitching emails,
right. I mean, think about it. Do you have Grammarly as an extension on your
yeah,
that's AI. You
I
already
yeah,
like you here's the thing, you already have AI fix your emails for you. Why would it be bad to have them write
that's
more of
true.
it? Like you know what I mean?
That's true. That's
It's
true.
it's
Okay, I'm glad we've had this session because it's probably going to save me like 20 years of my life
yeah.
by just using chat.
Well, and especially as someone who does work in data annotation, who like
Mhm.
tells AI what they can and cannot like
Mhm.
use, as someone whose job it is to be like, you can help people understand this, but you can't have your own opinions. Like,
Right.
you're training AI to do the
I
job that you're
know
now
every
asking
day.
AI to do for you,
Hmm.
and now you're upset that it did
Yeah.
the job that you trained it to do.
Oh, I understand that. I do fully understand that. Yes, correct.
Yeah.
I mean, that's sometimes how I feel with the law too, though. So, like, I learned the law,
Oh,
and then I get mad at the law
I got into a fight with a lawyer on TV today, so that's fine.
on the TV. I like that. That's nice.
Well, it wasn't even, it was just, it was about like an immigration case and the things
Mm.
that she said. I was like, I I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, great. But I don't think that that's what the Constitution says.
No one knows
Like,
what the Constitution says is the problem.
right. And I'm like, listen, I'm not a lawyer. Not my job.
Hmm.
But I did take constitutional law. And
You know the first 10. That's really all you have to know over the Constitution.
but the Constitution, the rights embedded in the Constitution do not apply if you're not American. Like, correct?
No, not really. No,
Okay.
because they apply to persons. So there are citizens and then there are persons. And when some of them say that like all persons, that applies to everyone because
Oh,
you have to you have to abide by our constitution if you are in our country, if it is a person's
okay.
rule. And so
Okay.
sometimes no, but it yes, so that is the basic.
No, okay.
I'm
It,
gonna go forever, so I'll just stop
no,
here.
no, I get really up in arms about a lot of the issues with the visas in the country right
Hmm.
now
Hmm.
because I am not trying to say that every visa that has been revoked by this administration is an accurate use of the revocation process. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. They're case by case basis. the one that I was angry about on the news literally admitted that he had multiple DUIs but doesn't know why his visa is being revoked. And I was like, well, because you committed crimes. What?
Right, which is already like that's a very traditional. Like there are plenty of things that are not happening correctly with visa revocation, like you said, but that
Yeah,
has always been the case. And I mean,
right.
like
But people
sometimes they
are
don't uphold it, but you
right,
know, there's also
exactly.
like
And I'm
that.
like, and if they reissued your visa after you committed a crime, that's their mistake, and you can sue for it because they made the mistake. Great. Not,
I
however,
will say if they reissued it and he has not committed any more crimes,
right,
that
which
is
is
a good argument because it kind of
correct.
resets the clock.
Correct. My issue with the whole situation has been that people, like the greater public, not like individual people who are having this issue or who are lawyers fighting for this issue,
Mhm.
the greater public seems to think that the idea, just the concept of revoking visas is criminal because how dare you give them papers to stay here and then take them away? And I'm like, as someone who actually functioned as a foreign citizen on a work visa in a
Mhm.
foreign country for multiple years
That's not how it
on
works.
a much stricter system than we have in the US. I can tell you any day they can just wake up and take it away from you, and they're probably like allowed to. Like that's just not how
I
it
will say
works.
there are like
No,
rules,
there
but
are obviously there are rules in which things have to happen. But like
yeah,
if I didn't report my
but it's
address,
temporary.
right, if I didn't report my address every 90 days, they could kick me out of the country.
Well, yeah, and this stuff like that that like
It's a
applies. I don't know if it's 90
right,
days here, but stuff like
right,
that
but
also
like you
applies
have
here.
to, if you are on a student visa, you have to continue being in school. If you are on a work visa, you have to continue to have gainful employment. If you are on any visa, you have to not commit crimes. Like there are
Yeah.
things, and
I had a
like I said, the situation that is happening in the world right now, I do not have enough details about the individual people that are having things happen. But the general public reaction to how dare they take away visas, I was like, do you know what a visa is?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I had a friend who I was in law school with in New York, and his like visa was getting like um he was late on something or he was like out of school for too long, and so he like went to Canada for 2 weeks, and then when his visa was renewed, came back.
Right.
It's
Well,
like,
like, and so, like, here's the thing. I know plenty of people who in Thailand came on 90-day tourist visas and
mhm.
then went to Laos for a weekend to come back for a 90-day tourist visa.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, sure. It was real sketchy every time you had to do it because you had to pay somebody under the table to take you across the border so you could come back and get a new visa. Like, it's technically super illegal. Lots of people do it. However, if you have a sponsored work or school visa,
mhm.
not a tourist visa, it's a lot harder to follow up on that because the government's like, we're paying you to be here, basically.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. No, I mean those are very specific timelines and guidelines, and like
yeah,
it's yeah, those have very detailed rules, and like even if they suck sometimes they just are what they are, and they're pretty cemented. Like they're not
yeah,
really vague.
no. And if you did everything right and someone still tried to take your visa, sue the shit out of them. 100%, 100%. But if you're like, yeah, I know
Yeah,
I committed some crimes, but I didn't,
sure.
like, then I'm like, sir,
Yeah.
but they're like,
Hmm.
but the guy was like, I committed these crimes, but I don't know why they're revoking my visa. Oh, I do.
Like you could get a speeding ticket, like not even an intense ticket, and they
Yes,
can like revoke your
exactly.
visa.
Well, and that's the thing. He was like, the DUIs got written down to traffic tickets.
It doesn't
It
matter.
doesn't matter. Like that's
It could be a parking ticket, like
right.
anything that
Yeah.
is, yeah,
And the US is a lot more lenient than a lot of other places in the world. So like I don't
sure, sure.
it is.
Yeah.
But
I do have plenty of problems with immigration, the way it's being handled
oh,
lately, but
yes.
the
Yes.
visas have
Well,
always been that way. It just is what it
right.
is.
And
Like
it's
that's not
just
a
that
new
because
thing.
everything else is on fire, people are
Right.
like suddenly
This
like,
too, and it's like, no, well,
no,
not that one. Leave
not
that one
that.
out.
Please,
Let's
please
talk about the
don't.
ones that are actually happening.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, but that one, uh, and they're like, it's
Yeah.
only happening to foreign nationals. Well, yes, because only foreign nationals are
Sure.
on visas.
Right. 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 Yeah. It's like you gotta use your brain. Yeah.
Yes.
Like, I'm happy to fight a fight, but you have to use real things.
That's the thing. That's the thing. I'm like, listen, I mean, if everyone in the whole country who was here from not America left, I wouldn't have a job anymore.
Right.
So like, I'm clearly not for mass deportation.
Yeah.
However, I think we're all a little agitated and confused.
You know, the world and its state.
And yeah, that's kind of just where like my how am I this week? That's it. I'm just agitated and
I'm glad because I realized that we went real far into that. This is what happens before we get on the podcast sometimes, but we didn't do that today. So
no, but I also like I had spring break this week and we're recording 3 episodes today, so I have to find some things to talk about. And really, I did nothing because everything in the world is just annoying. So since we are mad at the government and AI, can you give us something to bring us joy?
Absolutely. Hold on, I have to figure out how to get back to my albums. Favorites. I'm running out of quotes. I'm about to get some new ones soon.
Ooh.
Okay. If you would not be forgotten as soon as you are dead and rotten, either write things worth reading or do things worth writing. Benjamin Franklin.
I love that, except for that it kind of started to rhyme a little bit. And
it did rhyme. It was the whole thing rhymes.
Yeah, but like, why?
I don't know. Why not?
I don't know. Maybe I just like the idea of Benjamin Franklin rhyming just makes me like picture him sitting there with his quill, like trying to be funny and like changing the words like 8 times, like and giggling to himself with his glasses, and everyone else is just like, Ben, just fucking write it. Like maybe that's why I have an unsolicited image of Ben Franklin being a goon in my head, and I hate it.
You know, there's that. There's that.
Like I said, agitated and confused, my state of being.
All of our state of being.
Speaking of other things that make people agitated and confused, the episode of Stargate that we were talking about today.
And I watched it twice, once with sound and once without.
Just to remind yourself what happened because you watched it.
Yeah, because I was like doing other stuff and like I was like doing something I needed to be talking for, so I couldn't have the sound on, so I just had it with the sound off.
But this is the one you already watched.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. The second time I watched it,
you were like, I just need to refresh myself.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about Stargate SG-1 Season 7, Episode 16, Death Knell. It was rated 7.8 stars. And it premiered on Friday, February 6th, 2004. Same song, same book. Now the #1 movie is Barbershop 2 Back in Business.
Here's the thing about Barbershop. I loved those movies as a kid. I don't know where, I mean, I know where they came from, and I just was so obsessed with them. And I think I watched them all out of order. Because I think I did watch Barbershop 2 first. Probably. That was little Queen Latifah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched that one first, and then I watched the other ones.
Okay. On this day, Australia's music industry piracy investigation raided the company and executive homes of the music or the group that owned the website Kazaa, which is basically another LimeWire. Like it is, yeah. It's like
okay. Yeah.
This is so funny because our on this days actually have everything to do with everything we just talked about because we have music piracy. And then the other thing is the US was in the process of trying to make electronic voting after the disaster that was the 2000 election. And this was the day that they said, yeah, we give up. Not going to work.
Can I tell you, we have electronic voting here. Can I tell you where they don't have electronic voting? Brooklyn, New York.
No, New York State has none. We have none.
2.5 hours. I had to stand in line for our local. This wasn't even for was for a local vote election.
Yeah, we have no electronic voting in New York State.
And there was like no air. Because it's New York. Yeah. I thought I was going to die. I did it. I pushed through and I voted for whatever I was voting for. But oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, after the disaster that was the 2000 election, they were like, maybe if we do it all on computers, everywhere, it'll be better. And then they were like, yeah, we haven't figured out how to make that work. So we're not gonna.
Yeah.
I didn't know you guys had electronic voting there.
We sure do. And oh my gosh, it was so fast. What did I just vote for? I don't know. We had a local election recently.
Mm.
And I just walked in and I went boop and walked out. It was amazing. Oh my God. I went to vote for the president. Not even, I walked in, I handed them my ID and I was summoned like immediately. There was
See,
no one in line. Beautiful.
I don't have never waited in line, but I mean, I still go in, show them my ID, sign my name,
Yeah.
pick up my
Yeah. All the things you
paper.
have to do.
Yeah,
Right.
pick up my paper, fill in the little bubbles, stick it in the machine. But I also don't live in Brooklyn, so like I've never waited in line.
Teens in Brooklyn stopped working, taking the papers. Oh my God. It was a nightmare. It was the worst day of my
I've
life.
heard it. That has happened here before. Not to me, but it has happened. Um, this episode was directed and written by Peter DeLuise and edited by Rick Martin. And the guest star played Dalek. Um, he was called Sebastian Spence. He is known for First Wave, Cedar Cove, and Battlestar Galactica.
Which is why I don't actually know him.
Yeah, he's apparently a big name in the Vancouver film scene. Like he does all the Canadian TV and the Hallmark stuff, and he like has done millions of those things, but nobody really knows him. His favorite genre to act in is sci-fi, which is fun. His father is a playwright who wrote like 150 radio plays, and I've literally heard of none of them.
Radio plays. I love a radio
Right.
play. Was it name the most popular one?
I don't know. It was just a list of
What was
radio
the
plays.
father's name? Do you know the father's name?
Michael Cook.
What is our actor's name again? Because Michael Cook is probably common.
Sebastian Spence.
Okay. I'm gonna see if I know any. Because we had some radio plays when I worked at TRO.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, he's written other like regular plays too, but Michael Cook, Canadian playwright. He died in 1994. He did, okay, the one stage play he wrote that I had heard of was the J. Alfred Prufrock Hour. That one.
Is what?
The J. Alfred Prufrock Hour.
Okay, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot about it, but I've heard of it.
No, that was the only one of his plays. But he wrote radio plays from 1966 all the way until 1986, and I had literally heard of zero of them. Yeah. There was one called Travels with Aunt Jane that had 12 episodes starring Jane Mallet, who I'm supposed to know who that is, but I don't, I guess.
No, I don't know that.
Yeah. There's a seal in the bottom of the garden. That's a fun named one.
That sounds like a fun song to sing.
Yeah. He did write one that's called Love is a Walnut.
Sure.
I feel like I have heard of that one, but I also don't know if I am just thinking about the walnut episode of the Dick Van Dyke Show and making it two things in my brain as the same thing.
It very well could be.
Yeah. So there is also, I'm just warning you, absolutely no trivia on this episode. Nothing.
So disappointed.
Yeah.
You know I love a trivia.
I know. So our previously on, which will make sense now, unlike last week when Courtney looked confused through the whole previously on. The previously shows the Tok'ra versus the Jaffa at the Alpha Base Camp and the Cull Warrior Device Saga episodes. So we start the episode with Jacob and Sam in the lab at the Alpha site, which we learn is in a brand new location since Anubis probed Jonas's mind, and since obviously the Cull Warriors were made off of Anubis probing Jonas's mind, they know they were successful in the mind probe, so they changed the location of the Alpha site. And they're fighting about the prototype weapon, and like I kind of loved this scene because they were just like yelling at each other for fucking nothing. And she was like, "Did you even drink your coffee today?" And he was like, "I gave up coffee because Salmac doesn't like it."
That would, oh my God, be my biggest nightmare. Just kill
No,
me.
I can tell you what's a bigger nightmare because it happened to me today. I went to make coffee this morning and I poured my coffee grounds into the water part of the coffee maker. And
I've done
I
that before.
and I just walked into the living room crying and Dan was like, "Are you okay?" And I go, "No."
No.
And he goes, "Oh shit, you weren't lying when you said you didn't sleep well." I go, as I did it, I watched myself do it and go, "What are you doing?" And couldn't stop. Like it was one of those things where in the moment I was like, "No, that's not what you do. That's not where it goes." Could not stop my arm. So then we had to unplug the thing and take it apart and clean it out to make coffee so that there weren't grounds in the water. That might be worse than giving up coffee. Is
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
uncaffeinated fix your coffee maker.
Right. Yeah. No.
Um, but they're complaining about the fact that they never really talk anymore. They don't know anything about each other's lives because everything is work and business all the time. But then the alarms go off because gold ships are entering the atmosphere. And then we get the credits.
Dun, dun, dun.
Um, at the SGC, Hammond fills the team in on what happened on Alpha Site, and they send a MALP in for information. And the MALP shows that the gate fell over, and the MALP is like stuck in a foxhole because when the gate fell, the wormhole dug a hole, which we've seen before. So Jack and Daniel and Teal'c are going in. They get there, and the entire
How many syllables can you put in that word?
um, so what happened was I wrote Alpha Site, but I actually wrote Alpha Gate and then crossed off Gate and wrote Site, and I was trying to read my words ahead of time. And so I was reading the word site while I was trying to say the word entire, and it didn't function. But the entire Alpha Site is decimated. However, it appears that it is from a single radius blast, not an aerial attack. So they basically find out that whatever happened here, the goal didn't destroy the base. The base destroyed the base. Um,
That sounds like replicators.
it does sound like
I do understand that's not what happened, but that is
right.
what it sounds like.
Yeah. Or just, everything in Stargate has a self-destruct button. We've
I
seen them
know.
almost self-destruct the actual SGC quite a few times. Um, they bring in SG-3 to join them to search for survivors. Um, while they're searching for survivors, Teal'c finds Anubis's drone armor. Um, and they're like, "Oh shit." Reynolds, who is the leader of SG-3, who, by the way, Dick, don't like him. Always forget he's annoying because he
I
only
know.
ever has a few lines of dialogue, but they're always annoying.
They're always annoying.
He finds the survivors, but Sam is not there, and neither is Jacob in the survivors that they have found. So they have to send in more backup because they need to be able to lift the gate up to get the survivors out because they're all too injured to like throw themselves in a sideways gate. Um, SG or SG-1 finds Jacob. He's not doing well, but you know, go wold healing, he'll be fine. But he has the weapon, but Sam has the power source, and he's not even sure if she's alive. Um, he gives the weapon to Jack so that he can go be rescued as well. And they get Jacob and all the other survivors back to SGC. And Jacob tells George what happened and what they're up against. They decide that the only way to fight this drone is potentially with a missile because like enough energy, like the regular energy blasts don't do anything, but like a big enough boom might. So Siler prepares a missile UAV so they can try to take down the Call Warrior. Then the biggest problem is, well, no, the biggest problem is that people are missing. But the second biggest problem is that we don't know how they found the Alpha site.
Right.
So Hammond questions Major Green, who is the highest ranking official from Stargate who was there, who survived, about what happened. And he tells them that basically the Goa'uld were coming. They got as many people out to the gate as they could, but Commander Riley knew that there was no way that they were all going to survive and that there was too much information on the base to leave behind. So he had Major Green go to the tree line and he self-destructed the base. So that's why we can't find Commander Riley. He sacrificed himself. Um, and then when asked about the conditions of the base in general, he says that the Jaffa and the Tok'ra are still not getting along at all. Which is not surprising,
Not
unfortunately.
surprising, but still a bummer.
Yeah. So then Teal'c and Jack are still searching and they find Sam's footprints, but the footprints aren't alone. There are other footprints there.
When
Um,
they're when the I've got terrible comedic time today. When there were two footprints. What is the
the,
story?
the poem about Jesus picking someone up on the beach and walking with one set of footprints.
That was when I carried you.
Yeah, yeah,
That's all I can think about when you said that. I
that
I did
is
watch this episode. I do know what happens, and I do know that I am just like my brain is spewing
that
nonsense.
is the most irrelevant thing ever.
I just think about if he had gotten her though, there would be only one set of footprints, but it would be Jesus.
Well, that's true. I was just listening to a true crime podcast about footprints about some guy who killed somebody in Australia and he had a weird deformed foot, but then the footprint
Mm.
casts didn't match exactly, so he got off and
Did he
they,
also have a weird name?
I don't know, it was like Birdie or something.
Oh no, no, no. Like it was
No.
like that's like a food, not a name or something. It was something like that, like I'm
Oh,
thinking of.
oh no. This one, nobody ever got arrested for the crime.
Hmm.
They don't know what happened.
Hmm.
I
Just
don't
a bit.
know. Anyway, um, Daniel is back at SGC with everybody trying to figure out what's going on in the base. He asks Jacob about what happened, and Jacob tells them that they were clearing out the information and taking out the Call Warrior drone. Um, but he says that it was really weird because the warrior came straight for the lab and straight for them. And then when they left the lab, it only followed them. So whatever it is doing, it's there for the weapon. It knows
Right.
that they have this. And he said, so wherever they are, whether if it's out there, it's after Sam. Like
Yeah.
that's it. Um, but so whatever. So Anubis knows about the prototype. We don't know how, we don't know why, but Anubis knows. So the UAV's ready. They send it over to start canvassing. And Hammond then questions the Jaffa leader. His name is Mazel. And Mazel thinks that the Tok'ra are lying about their spies. He says, we've been working to try to get the Jaffa of Olakun, who is a system lord. We want his Jaffa to join us because he's a smaller system lord. We know that the Tok'ra have a spy in the ranks. If they could just kill Olakun and give the rebels or give the Jaffa a chance to be free, like it would save all of this the trouble, but they won't do it, and so that's why we don't trust them. And Hammond is like, they don't have a spy. They would have told us. Like, that's not. And he's like, oh, so they're lying to you too. Cool. And he's like, well, how do you know all of this? He goes, well, like, okay, so we did also send people to Olakan and we don't know if they made it out or not. So that's a potential missing link there with the information. We get a quick So Hammond explains to the Jaffa why, or to Mizal why he's worried and that the Anubis could have mind probed the Jaffa. And he's like, no, the Jaffa, like, they would never give in to torture. He's like, it's not torture. He doesn't have to torture you. He can just take things from your head. Like, um, Hammond or Teal'c and Jack are still looking for Sam. They still haven't found anything, but we see that Sam is hiding from the drone and she's in really bad shape. Not doing well. Um,
Yeah.
uh, Jacob goes to talk to Hammond, and Jacob also doesn't think that the Tok'ra have anyone with Olakan. He's like, no, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know where the Jaffa would have gotten that. Um, but Mazel comes back and he tells Jacob and Hammond that Anubis won, Olakan is dead, and only one of their rebels made it out. They don't know what happened to the rest of them.
Did we know
So
Olakan before today?
no, he's just a
Okay.
minor system lord that like doesn't really
Okay, I
matter.
just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. And and Hammond is like, I wonder if like the Tok'ra did send somebody and just like didn't tell you. And Jacob's like, that feels not correct.
Doesn't it, Jacob? Doesn't it?
Mhm. Um, Sam makes her way through the forest, and the Cull Warrior is still tracking her by her blood trail. But then we have a really like high tension scene where we think Sam's gonna die, but then turns out it's just a different dead soldier. Um, and so Hammond interrogates Delic, who is also on the High Council of the Tok'ra, and he, as good as admits that they did have a spy in Olakan's ranks, and he's like, "Yeah, we keep secrets from the SGC. You keep secrets from us," and they're like, "No, like that's not how we do this." And he's like, "Well, it's like how many other countries on your planet did you give full disclosure to? Do you never sneak soldiers into other countries, even if you have alliances with them?" And Hammond's like, "That's different." He goes, "But is it?"
I think it's different. Because it's not that he's sneaking it into SGC.
Yeah,
They're
no.
sneaking into a common enemy.
Yeah.
And so you would talk about your strategy from your side, I think. Look, I'm mad at the Toker this episode. Let's start there.
Okay.
So,
I'm
and
not,
I don't do war. I'm not a war person, so I also don't know
yeah,
how that works.
my,
But
no, we for sure just don't tell our allies when we send people places. Sometimes it's
no,
not,
no, I get
not
that.
good.
I get
Yeah.
that. I'm just saying in this specific situation.
Yeah, I went by the end of the episode, my analysis to Dan was that both the Jaffa and the Tok'ra are absolutely correct in their decision for their own people. I just am more sympathetic with the Jaffa because the Tok'ras are dicks and
Yes.
they always have been. They're not
Mhm.
wrong. Like they're 100% not wrong. And like objectively, I also agree with their logic. But because they're always dicks about things, I don't like it. But
Maybe they're
like
like 1% wrong.
I don't know.
I don't like it.
I don't know. I think it's hard because I think that both of them are correct.
I just think the Tok'ra and the SGC are so much more intertwined than like the Tok'ra and the Jaffa and the SGC that it's like there's a lot more layers, especially
But
because they're kind of like sharing people with like Jacob
But
and
we think that because of Jacob, but not because it is actually true. I mean, Braytak and Ryak and Teal'c are way more connected
but
because
Braytek shares things with us.
no, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're talking about
Yeah,
how
yeah.
intertwined they are, Braytak and Teal'c literally would die without the SGC.
Right.
The Jaffa are completely integrated.
Yeah, but they're a little bit separated from the Jaffa. Like the Braytek and Tilk aren't really like the Jaffa.
I don't know. Well, when we get to the end of the episode and we talk about their reasons, I will go more into it because I think that they're both correct.
Hey, whatever you say, whatever you
Um,
say.
So even though he admits that he's a dick and he definitely has secrets, he also still blames the Jaffa for the exposure because he's like, no, our operative wouldn't have done it. And Hammond basically tells him to fuck around and find out. Like, um, then we have a quick scene. Sam makes it to water only to be discovered by the Cull, who tries to follow her, but apparently can't swim. So that's
That's good news.
yeah. Um, then Jacob goes to talk to Delic because of what happened with Hammond, and basically Delic says that like nobody likes you. You like people too much. You are not loyal to us. We question um your ability to be objective in decisions. And yeah, so the High Council did send people without you.
See, and I'm upset about that because I do think Jacob would not have told SGC if he was told not to. I do think he is more loyal because of Selmac to the Tok'ra.
I The problem is that Selmac also agrees with Jacob, which we see later.
Sure. Yeah.
And even Dalek says some people did agree with them within the High Council too. Jacob is in a difficult position because Sam is the most important thing to him. Like, and even you think about the way Martouf and Jolinar and like the way that their love like existed with both host and like symbiote and how it transcended that. Jacob's love for
Yeah.
Sam is going to transcend that. Selmac is also going to love Sam because like that's what those emotions are.
Right.
So I get that. And I think the fact that the Tok'ra double crossed Jacob is why we're so much more mad at them
Mm-hmm.
than we are at
Probably.
the Jaffa.
Because they're not even loyal to their own people.
Right. So there's yeah. That is why we take the Jaffa side.
Mm-hmm.
However, at the end of the day, I don't think that their reasoning is inappropriate. So, um, for their ultimate decisions, not for
Right.
being a dick to Jacob. That's
Sure.
just um. So Jacob tells Hammond what he knows that they went back on everything, and he's like, "Listen, I'm not any help on this investigation. I have to go find Sam. Like, I can't be here anymore." Um, And he's like, okay, but I can't let you go find Sam because I need you to go to the beta site because I need you to talk to people because the fighting that we are seeing now is so much worse at the beta site. Like the entire alliance is on the brink of falling apart. So then we go back to the planet. The UAV flies over and Sam tries to signal for help. The call then shoots the UAV down, and Dan
Right.
goes, ah, she blew it up with her watch.
I will say when that happened, I was like, what are they trying to say here? Because that's what I thought they were like,
Yeah,
and I was like, what? And then I realized it was the call. And I'm like, oh yeah,
yeah.
that makes sense.
So SGC radios to Jack where to find the downed UAV. So they have a direction to head in. Um, then back at SGC, Jacob asks Mizell to help him talk to the people fighting at the beta site. He's like, I can do it, but I can't do it alone because my people might listen to me, but your people aren't going to listen to me. They need you. Like they need to see that we're united. And um, he's like, why should I do that? Like your people are terrible to my people. And Jacob's like, how much farther have we gotten in the fight for freedom in the last 7 years than we did in the previous 700? Well, and actually, Salmak is the one who's talking at this point. It's not even Jacob. And he's like, we, as a united front, the three races, like the three of us, have done more to protect like the universe in 7 years than in 700 without each other. Like, we are better together. And Mizelle's like, I believe you. I agree with you. I don't think your people agree with you. And I think you know that too. And he's like, we can't reconcile if the rest of the Tok'ra don't think that things are different.
Yeah.
Um, um, so then Sam makes it to the downed UAV and tries to use its missile against the call on her own. She's like rejiggering the entire missile. Um, the leaders come to the negotiation table, and Dalek is like, I really just don't even know if the alliance is on the table anymore. Um, and this is where because even Jacob starts to kind of understand why they feel the way they do. And I agree 100% with this. The Toker are dying because of the choices that the Tauri are making. And I think that that is very fair because I think in general, the American military has a shoot first, ask questions later mentality.
Yes, that is true.
And casualties are a part of war.
Yeah.
If there is a way to have less casualties, great. But if there is a way not to, but if there is no way, that's just what you signed up for.
Right.
Which is great when you are an elite group of warriors who are only an eighth of the population of an eighth of the planet.
Yes.
When you are a small group of alien creatures who no longer have the ability to reproduce ever again, the crossfire situation, not acceptable. And it's funny because what I think of when I think of this is the difference between how Dan and I play Harry Potter Legacy. Um, because when Dan plays, he powers up all of his stealth abilities. He will like disillusion himself before he walks into any camp. He will sneak up behind people and kill them. He will be as quiet as possible. I will just walk into the middle of a battlefield and with just shoot people till I'm dead. And that is why the Tok'ra cannot continue to work with the people of Earth because they fight battles the way I play Hogwarts Legacy, which is
Right.
we'll see. Hopefully I don't die.
I hope you don't die. But I will tell you that lends itself more to Dan being a serial killer. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Um, so then we get Sam does recalibrate the missile. She uses it to take out the call, but she goes over there. She thinks she's good. She's sitting there trying to breathe for the first time in who knows how many days. Turns out unsuccessful. The call pops out of the ground like a fucking zombie, and just as it's about to get to Sam and kill her, Jack and Teal'c arrive. Sam gives Jack the new power core for the weapon, and Jack kills the call. So
Thank goodness. Good riddance.
everything's all good there. Then we're back at the negotiation table, and the Jaffa are like, hey, we're also gonna leave. And Hammond's like, but like, why? Like, if the Tok'ra are leaving, there's no fights for you anymore. And this, I also 100% agree with because I think it is part of one of the problems of the U.S. and our wars in the Middle East and what we have done to communities there is they were like, listen, we're free. However, we're not because we can't do anything without running it past you. And Hammond's like, but that's not to hold you back. That's just to make sure like we're all on the same page. And they're like, we don't think that you're trying to hurt us. But at the same time, like the way I said it to Dan when we were talking about it at the end, I said, the Jaffa want to fight with the US, like the military, not for the military.
Mm-hmm.
And until they know how to be their own independent body,
right,
they can't do that. They will always be subservient if they go from being one servant to another servant.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's sad, but I think both of our groups are correct that the power balance is wrong.
Is off. Yeah.
And I agree with the idea. The reason I agree with the Jaffa more is because they acknowledge that the problem is not that the US or that like SGC is attempting to railroad them. They're just misguided in how best to coordinate efforts. Tok'ra kind of think that we're assholes. So that's why they feel like they're being dicks. But in both cases, an alliance only works as a true alliance if everyone has a say.
Right.
And the SGC kind of doesn't do that. And like to be fair, they wouldn't be where they were without the Tok'ra and the Jaffa.
Mhm.
So to hold all the cards isn't fair.
Right.
So
It should be a little truer of a
yeah,
split. That is fair.
right. And Daniel freaks out about it, but Daniel's also not military. Daniel's living in La La world where everybody holds hands and is happy and shares things equally like a weird communist society, and that's not what's happening.
Daniel doesn't know anything about
No,
except ancient Egypt.
In Daniel's mind, all of these ancient societies that he's studying all had completely socialistic, egalitarian worlds where everyone was happy and beautiful except for the Goa'uld were in charge of it,
Right.
which is not true.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, I'm gonna be honest, whether the rulers in ancient Egypt were pharaohs or aliens, they still had slaves. What?
Yeah, it doesn't
Like,
really matter who the
it,
bad guys
it
were.
doesn't matter who the bad guy is, there were still slaves. What? Like,
Yeah.
so,
Yup.
and all the art and history and culture that you're reading wasn't from the slaves. So Daniel just proves how stupid he is.
I know. Bless his heart.
Then the last scene we get, Sam wakes up in the hospital and Jacob is there and he tells her that he's gonna have to go away for a little bit, because he still believes that this alliance can happen and it can work, but he's gonna have to do some work within the Tok'ra to help them like feel better about it. And so he's gonna have to go away for a little bit. And it's very sad.
I know. It feels like we're never gonna see him again.
I'm sorry that you feel that way.
I don't like it.
Yeah. I just feel like Sam's been on a freaking roller coaster this
Oh my
season.
God. Every episode. That's what I was thinking when I watched this. I was like, every episode has been Sam just like hold it together barely. If I was
Yeah.
Sam,
Yes.
would not have happened.
No.
Would not have
No.
happened that way.
Um, yeah, but so then that is the end of the episode. And like I said, I have no trivia. So, what are your thoughts, feelings, questions?
I mean, this just felt like such a big episode. This is the episode I thought we were watched last week, and then we didn't. So I've watched it twice now,
Yeah.
and it just feels like we've changed everything. Like everything's different forever now.
Mhm.
And I don't know if that's really true, but like we finally got the Jaffa on board, we got the Toker on board. So we're kind of back where we started. Like we didn't have these people in the beginning, but
Yeah.
like
Well,
we've
I
gotten
mean,
so far.
I mean, I did say the back half of season 7 is quite wild.
Yeah.
In terms of just where we're going, how where the energy stays. Um, Even the lull episodes in the back half end up having a lot of significance. So it's dramatic, and I can't remember. This was back when they were still thinking that every season was the end of the show, right?
They thought that
Yes.
until the last season.
Yeah, so like this is when like they're building up. And season 7 when they switched networks, or was that season 6?
I
No, that
think that
was
was season
season
six.
6. Okay. But so like when they switched networks, they thought they only had one. But then they got
Mhm.
two. But then that's like a big deal. Um,
Yeah.
when we talk about the season 7, like when we get to the finale and we do the wrap up, I'll talk more about it because obviously they also then knew by the time season 7 ends, they knew Atlantis was going to happen also. So like, and that's the other thing. A lot of this is leading up to that. Um,
Sure.
so it's a lot. The end of the season is a lot.